drove over 100 miles per hour straight into a building. 2 people died instantly. Prosecutors say that it wasn't an accident. They say it was intentional. But now, after the verdict, something her own attorney did in court could mean she may never get out of prison. I'm Matthew Pfeiffer, a therapist who breaks down high-profile true crime cases. In this episode of Criminal Motives, we break down the case of Mackenzie Shirilla. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and let's get this episode started.
There is no doubt that the story of what Mackenzie Shirilla did is incredibly tragic, and it's heartbreaking, and it changed lives forever, not just the people who were in the car she was driving on that terrible night. Now, Mackenzie has said ever since 2022 that her side of the story is that she has no idea what happened, and everything we're about to talk about was a total accident. And we'll lay this case out for you once again so you can see it and you can make that decision for yourself. But even after the verdict, Mackenzie Shirilla has stood by that this was just an accident. But we're following another big update in her case because her attorneys tried to appeal, and that was just shot down.
Oh my God, times 3, guys. Radio, 3 occupants. No one's conscious. No one's breathing. Bust that window out. Rookie. Oh my God, dude.
This is video of police rushing to the car to see if anyone survived. Now, this crash happened in the very early hours of the morning, and police wouldn't find this wreckage until hours later. And this, just look at this here, a clear picture of just how bad this car was mangled. Mackenzie's claimed that she was behind the wheel, but she blacked out. All of this was an accident, even though video shows the car clearly accelerating at a very fast pace to hit more than 100 miles per hour. Now, there is zero doubt that Mackenzie's lucky to be alive. She was airlifted to the hospital with multiple fractures, but she survived. The 2 men in the car, Dominic and Davion, they weren't so lucky. Now, in the vehicle, as police went through the wreckage, they found a weed pen, a bong, and multiple grams of marijuana. And that evidence, that played a role in the story that prosecutors told at her trial. And a big part of this case, and it's been something after the verdict that has continued to be a big part of her case, is the question of whether Mackenzie Shirilla had any remorse for what happened. And had she been able to appeal, that might have been something that could have been central to her argument that all of this was just an accident. Now, Mackenzie was recovering in the hospital. And when she was recovering in the hospital, she really played the role of a grieving girlfriend who was the victim of a bad accident. Prosecutors would later argue that she wanted to turn her role as victim into something where she could make money as a model.
The police were provided additional videos of the defendant from her wheelchair as she attended a concert down in the Flats. And again, Your Honor, I'm introducing these to the court to show the shocking lack of remorse. This was something that was being exhibited while the investigation was still going on, before she was charged and arrested in November of last year. And these were the sort of things that were coming to the police, and the shocking lack of remorse, coupled with the fact that the defendant was reported driving an automobile shortly after this event, that she was seen in Strongsville again driving a car, in spite of the fact that, as her mother testified, she got dizzy sometimes from a condition that she had to take salt pills for, in spite of the fact that it was, in fact, her mother who provided her with the car that she used to take Dominic and Davion's life.
Even more, frankly, disturbing, a classmate shared this text message with investigators that show Mackenzie asking him to go get pictures of her from Dominic's room and to put them in Dominic's casket at his funeral. So, quote, he can be with me forever. Another odd, if not concerning act that
So that message that was sent, I think, is actually huge in the mindset and also huge in terms of this case. So people who have experienced or have been in toxic relationships or experienced with people who have been in toxic relationships, oftentimes you'll hear them say things like, "You'll be with me forever. If I'm not with you, no one's going to be with you." Those sorts of things. In my opinion, I actually think that night she thought that she was going to lose her life too. That it was going to be a murder suicide thing, and I don't know the relation. I know that the friend was a friend of her boyfriend's, but I don't think there was any concern about the boyfriend. Whatever argument, if there was a breakup or whatever, and people who have experienced toxic relationships or experience with it will know that sometimes they don't care about the audience, right? Especially if it was highly, highly toxic. They don't care about the audience. The only thing they care about is either winning that argument or taking the life of that person. But I think that so we can be together forever. It really shows and sets the precedence of what she was thinking that night and what she thought of the relationship, where it was kind of the mindset of if I can't have you, no one's going to have you, right? I don't know if they were in the middle of a breakup. Now, when I say in the middle of a breakup that night, it could have been just he said, I'm done with this. We're done once we get home. I'm not sure where they were coming from that night. But the language that night likely was, I'm going to break up with you. I'm done with you. And then it led to this. But I'll also, like I said, this note that was sent, I think it really shows the mindset of where she was at in terms of them wanting to be together forever, but in a very, very toxic way.
That she took after the crash was Shirilla went to a concert, and the months after this accident, she was in a wheelchair, as you can see here, and prosecutors used that at trial. But as Mackenzie played the part of the victim in all of this, authorities built their case, and in November 2022,
this victim thing, it's very common. I've mentioned this in other cases that I broke down. People who engage in murder, especially if it's a form of domestic violence, regardless if it is coming from man to woman or woman to man. It's very common for the person who is the perpetrator to all of a sudden flip and become the victim. Now, it's debatable. Here's where it gets confusing, because people who have experienced this maybe on a lower level where it hasn't extended to the point of murder will tell you that that people who are abusive will oftentimes play victim. And now we're getting into a term called Darvo, where the abuser will flip things and make the victim feel like they're the reason and they're responsible. And it's debatable on whether or not the person who is the perpetrator or the abuser in the situation truly actually feels like they're a victim, if they really actually believe it, or if it's a form of manipulation. In my opinion, it kind of goes back and forth, and it becomes a defense mechanism so frequently for that person, where they've kind of done it all their life, to where number one, it bounces back and forth between them intentionally doing it and them just kind of it being like a reflex, so to speak, or subconscious like mindset. And I think that it becomes so frequently, you hear people say all the time, like, I think that this person believes their own lies. And I do think that is true to an extent, where sometimes they'll do it as a defense mechanism, and then it just becomes a part of their story to a point where they just believe it and they just stick with it. Not only do they stick with it, but if you challenge that belief, you typically will see what I call a pop. Right. And what I mean by that pop is you'll hear people call it sometimes a narcissistic injury. And so I don't doubt that A, she was playing victim, but B, there was a part of her that also believed this story.
He was arrested.
Where's she? Right back there, pal.
Hi, Mackenzie. Step out for me. I'm Detective Jesus. I'm the one who's been investigating the crash. You're under arrest for aggravated murder ×2, okay? Nobody's gonna ask you any questions. Nobody's gonna bother you. Can I have your key, please?
Could you please be careful taking this one off so it doesn't break the bracelet, please?
You got it. You got it. No.
Thank you.
You got it. Okay, just keep your hands right here. I'm not gonna tighten these, okay? I don't want to hurt you. You good? Are they good? Thank you. All right. This cruiser right here.
Actually, he took her out of the car and we did not.
Okay. Do you have anything I can find? Pockets, anything like that?
We're in pockets.
Yeah. That's your head going in. Go on. I'm not gonna hurt you. You okay?
Here is video of Shirilla in the back of the cruiser being taken to the county jail, and she seems solemn. She seems emotional. Mackenzie went on trial in 2023. She argued that she didn't remember what happened, that all of this was an accident. But prosecutors, they say that this was a toxic relationship taking that deadly turn. And when Mackenzie turned onto a road in the early hours of that morning in July in 2022, she put her foot on the gas and the car accelerated to the point where it was going over 100 miles per hour, crashing into that wall. And that crash took the lives of the two young men who were also with her in the vehicle. At her trial, a judge found Mackenzie guilty on 12 charges, 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of felonious assault, 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide, 1 count of drug possession, and 1 count of possessing criminal tools. Now, it was a judge that made that decision because Mackenzie and her attorneys opted for a bench trial instead of having a jury decide her fate. The sentencing, it was very, very emotional. This is what Mackenzie said in the courtroom.
Is there anyone else?
I would like Mackenzie to address the court.
Mackenzie, you don't have to speak if you don't want to. It's up to you. Okay? You can sit if it's more comfortable, whatever's better for you.
The families of Dom and Davion, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davion. We were all friends and Dom was my son.
Now, there's a lot of debate on her memory of this. Now, the problem and in defense of her is that there's probably, she may not remember it because of the accident, right? I'm sure there is, I'm not sure exactly what she was diagnosed with after the accident, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is a traumatic brain injury, TBI from the accident. She has amnesia from the accident. And this is where it kind of becomes a slippery slope. She doesn't remember the accident, so it might be difficult for her to even have a defense of what happened that night. And at the same time, there's enough evidence leading to this to believe that this relationship was toxic enough and even after that, after the fact, as a matter of fact, that this was done intentionally. Now, whether or not that leads to reasonable doubt in this situation, that obviously the jury decided that there was no reasonable doubt and they convicted her. But that's where it also becomes a very slippery slope in this case.
I wish I could take all your pain away, and I'm so sorry. And to my family, thank you for the support and all the love you guys give. Thank you for fighting with me. I love you all so much. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, you can hear there that Mackenzie was still claiming that all of this, everything we've been talking about, was not her fault, that she was just a victim of an accident and she didn't know what happened. And if she had appealed, her defense may have pointed to what they believed was a lack of evidence proving that it was an accident. But we'll talk in just a moment about why she won't have the chance to do that. And the clerical error, in some sense, that could have a lifetime of an impact on Mackenzie Shirilla beyond what she has already been found guilty of. Now, prior to Mackenzie's victim impact statement, we need to talk about this because her mom addressed the court trying to stand up for her daughter, and the judge was just not having it.
She would never, ever, ever murder the love of her life. Okay? For Halloween, for 3 months after the accident, she would only wear his clothes.
So I'm gonna talk about something with the mom and what the mom is saying here in a second. And I want to combine it with the note that Mackenzie mentioned. But one thing I want to bring up is, her saying that Mackenzie would never do this to the friend and to her boyfriend. But the reality of it is that she was driving at an extremely high rate of speed. So a part of this conversation also, in my opinion, needs to be maybe not murder, but maybe it's manslaughter. That even if she didn't do this intentionally, that she was still recklessly driving. So I think that also needs to be a part of the conversation. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think that manslaughter would be a more appropriate charge in this situation? But let's continue. Then I'll break down what Mom is saying here.
She would only eat the snacks he ate. She would only listen to the music he wrote. Okay, she was laying in bed for 3 months crying. There was a shrine of him next to her with photos and things that he liked, and this flower that lights up that he got her because he wanted it to be fresh and alive forever. It's like a little Beauty and the Beast flower. Okay, she's got this shrine of him next to her. So she was crying for 3 months. So her friends asked if she wanted to go out trick-or-treating or Halloween, and it was at OU. And she didn't even want to go. She said, I don't know, should I go? She couldn't even walk yet, barely. So I told her, I said, baby, please go. It's Halloween. You've been laying for 3 months crying, only listening to his music. Please go. Have just a moment of fun. A moment of fun. So we told her to go. My husband drove her. I brought her back home. She just needed a second of fun from losing her whole world. Her whole world. So that was us. We told her to go. And that concert she went to with Dom's cousin, Abby, they picked her up. They brought her there. That was Dom, Mackenzie and Dom and Abby all decided to go to this concert together while they were in the hospital. That was for Dom. Everything she did after the accident was either in honor of him, to be close to him, or just to be by him any way that she can. She's like devastated and tragic. He was the air that she breathes. Okay, and they went with his cousin. We spent all kinds of time with him after the accident. What was the other thing?
I'm hearing an awful lot about your daughter. I'm not hearing very much about the 2 dead people.
Dominic, okay, I'm asking you for a leniency because this was a tragic accident that she does not remember. And Davion, he's a new friend. And I'm so sorry.
What does that mean? His life is worthless?
No. Okay. God, no, not at all. They all loved each other. They all spent every day together. You know what I mean? I don't know too
Isn't
much
that
for
part of
him.
the problem, Mrs. Shirilla?
Sorry?
Isn't that part of the problem, that they all trusted each other? Isn't that part of
It's not a problem at all. It was
the problem
wonderful.
of how they all ended up in the car together and two of them ended up dead?
I understand. I understand what it looks like. I'm saying that it was a tragic accident. She would
But
never.
we're going to have to disagree on
I
that.
understand.
Right.
Then at the sentencing, the judge spoke to the courtroom. This is what she said.
Who's responsible for the pain of everyone in this room?
So I'm glad the judge called the mother out on the fact that she was only speaking about Mackenzie and wasn't talking about either one of the victims in the situation. Because in my opinion, when you look at the entire case and you look at the way that Mackenzie was raised, it seems like and it sounds like there was a lot of permissive parenting that was happening, at least in her teen years, but more than likely in her early stages as well. And I believe that may be something that kind of led up to not only this behavior, but these type of relationships of a person who just felt entitled, felt like she should have everything she wanted when she wanted, and when she didn't get it, she would throw a tantrum. And so I think that this. So I think that these statements that the mother is making to the court is a little sneak peek into some of the upbringing and maybe even a lot of the enabling that's happening on behalf of the mother. I mean, you just heard about how she allowed for her daughter to move in with her boyfriend. I think she was only 16 or 17 years old. Just little things like that. Just a very entitled mindset for someone that age.
That person is you, Mackenzie. Nobody else is responsible. This isn't the fault of Dominic's family or Davion's family or your family. And I know that each of you have asked your questions to yourselves, what if? What if I had done this or that? The truth of it is, none of us can control the intentions of another. And when there is a purposeful intent to harm or kill someone, it is the perpetrator alone who bears the responsibility for the choice and the consequences and the harm that follows. The difficulty for sentencing today, honestly, is whether or not I believe you should get consecutive sentences. I'm troubled that should I give you a concurrent sentence, that people will believe that somehow I'm being disrespectful to one of the victims. And on the other hand, I have to weigh the punishment. There's a very good likelihood, Mackenzie, that you will spend the rest of your life in prison. That won't be up to me. That will be up to the parole board, and that will be up to you to a great extent. I understand that the pain in this room wants me to impose the harshest sentence, but I don't believe that would be the appropriate sentence, because I do believe that Mackenzie will not be out in 15 years.
So let's get into what happened this week. So there are some important dates to remember when it comes to Mackenzie's case and why the final effort, potentially, that she had to reverse her courtroom verdict won't happen. Shirilla was sentenced to 15 years to life in state prison. She was found guilty on August 14th, 2023, and she was sentenced on August 21st, 2023. Her attorneys filed an appeal on October 24th, 2024. All of these dates are very important, and here's why. Her attorneys argued that there wasn't enough evidence to prove that Mackenzie meant to kill Russo and Flanagan. And that issue, it appears, won't be debated in court again because the appeal was rejected, and that rejection was not based on the facts of the case, but it was because her appeal was filed too late, just a day after the deadline to submit it. Shirilla and her attorneys have appealed that decision, the decision to not let her appeal. And one of those arguments was that 2024 was a leap year, so they should get an extra day. But the court ruled against that. And this week, the 8th Appellate Court in Cuyahoga County, Ohio, that's where Cleveland is, said that they will not let her appeal her verdict. And on top of that, the Ohio Supreme Court already ruled against even hearing the case. So it is possible that Shirilla could spend the rest of her life in prison because of what she did on that night in 2022. But it's also possible, with 15 years to life as her sentence, that she could be released on parole when she's roughly 34 years old, which would be in 2038.
So on one hand, I think that there should be some form of punishment in this situation, whether that is murder, whether that's manslaughter. That's not for me to decide. I haven't seen all of the evidence to know. I do understand toxic relationships, and but I'm also very sensitive to young people making dumb decisions. I say that to say this, that I do feel bad that she's not even going to be able to appeal. I do think that she should at least have that right. And I'm really surprised that they won't even, especially because it wasn't an error from her side of things. I think very sensitive to when an attorney makes a clerical error, the person that is hired to protect you. Regardless if it's her or anyone else for that matter, when an attorney makes an error, I think that that's something that should be looked at with courts. If it's your error, you're the one that didn't turn something in and you weren't responsible, that's a whole other thing. But I think for her to potentially be punished because of her attorney's error, I don't think that's right for her or anybody else. I think that's something that needs to be looked at in our system. But that'll do it for me today. Thank you guys very much for checking out the channel. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're notified every time I upload a new video.